Hello, everybody, and welcome to Church at Home with Rachel for Tuesday, the 30th of September. I'm trying a new thing here. I am going live because I wasn't able to get this recorded earlier. And hey, it's a good day to try a new thing. So hopefully this will work. As you can see, I'm wearing my Every Child Matters t-shirt or sweatshirt because today in Canada we recognize and commemorate the Truth and Reconciliation Day as a national statutory holiday. It is a day when all kinds of people are not celebrating but recognizing the work of the Truth and Reconciliation Commission. Many people are participating in walks and activities to talk about Every Child Matters, to hear the stories and the history of the Indian residential schools here in Canada. And it can be a very difficult day for many of our people. For some people, it might be a new learning. For our children who are only beginning to learn about such things in school, today is a day to sort of dig deep and help them to have the learning they hear in classrooms sink deeper into who they are. For new Canadians, people who are immigrants or new to Canada, this is an opportunity for them to learn the truth of who we are as Canadians, that we are not perfect, although we might like to think we are sometimes, and the recognition that what we have done in the past is not something we can leave in the past, that we need to grapple with those things, and that they have come to a country which is willing to do that hard work. And so today I speak to you about what it is that we are doing here in Canada on this September 30th. This past week, I have been up north in the PA working with and celebrating life with Indigenous peoples and many others. And we had a meeting on Saturday, a regional council meeting, in which one of our elders, Charlie, talked about the importance of language and the languages that were stolen from the children when they went to the Indian residential schools. And he talked about the language of the womb, WOMB. He talked about the language that a fetus, a child hears when they're still safe and cuddled into the womb of their mother, and the voice that they hear. The language, I'd never thought of this before, but when he was talking about it, the language that the mom speaks to the world or speaks to their baby is their natural first language. And for some people, for my family, for me, my natural first language was English. The words that my mother spoke to me as a babe within her womb, that she spoke to other people that I would hear within her, were the English language. For Charlie, it was Cree. For others, it may be Dene or Oji Cree, or it could be French or Ukrainian or Polish or German or Russian, Hindi, all of the different languages. But this idea that the language of our womb is one of the first things that identifies us as who we are. That whatever it is, because that language, obviously, as a child still growing within our mother's womb, we don't have our brains and our ability to decipher. If she says, "Hand me my cup of tea," a child within the womb wouldn't understand what that meant. But those words, those sounds, would be imprinting themselves in the very DNA of that child. And so when that mother is cooing to their child in their belly, or singing lullabies to it, or talking to their loved ones, or having an argument with someone, those words, those very sounds are the very things, the first stimulus, so to speak, that child in the womb is developing, it's sinking into its DNA, its brain, its sense of who it is. The language that we are first given in the womb really is the first identifying factor of who we are as people. And when he told us that, I was absolutely blown away. It was like, how come I've never thought of that before? And so as we gather and we celebrate or we commemorate or whatever it is we are doing on this Orange Shirt Day, this Truth and Reconciliation Day, one of the things we must remember is that in the hideousness of removing children's language in the Indian residential schools, we were stripping them of the very first thing that made them who they are. And so it is really important that we help those people, those peoples whose language was taken away from them, those children and grandchildren of survivors who may never have learned that first language that is actually within their DNA because of who they are, who their great grandmothers were when they were speaking to their grandparents in the womb. We need to help them recover their language. But the same thing can be said for all of us, for what is happening in Russia and Ukraine, what's happening in Palestine and Israel, for all of the places where one group is trying to annihilate another. One of the ways they do that is to strip their culture and to teach them a different way, to refuse to allow them to speak their language. We need to recognize language really as a human right. We need to be able to go back and say that because that language of the womb is the very first thing that helps to shape and form and identify a person's very being, that needs to be something that we give great credence to, and we need to help them get that back. So whether it is the languages that the people from the Holocaust may have lost in fear of the Germans in the World War II, whether it's the fear of the Ukrainians now, who are those children who have been stolen from Ukraine and taken to Russia for adoption, who will be told that they must not speak Ukrainian. The children who are born in places where there is such incredible poverty that they're not able to live with their parents. The language of the womb that they heard. These are all places, not just here in Canada with our Indigenous siblings, but we must learn from what we have done here in Canada to stop that from happening around the world. The language of the womb needs to be one of the very first things that we acknowledge and try to find ways to encourage our peoples, our siblings in creation to have back. And whether that is your own language, the language of your ancestors from wherever you may come from, or in most definitely the language of our Indigenous children of this day, of whatever age they may be, who are struggling to learn their language. We must encourage them. We must provide resources for them, opportunities for them to learn. And maybe, just maybe, it would be a good idea if we joined them and we learned the language of their womb so that we might better be able to communicate with them, just as we have always assumed they should be able to communicate with us. We need to go back to honoring the very beings that people have been, who were created to be. And one of the ways to do that is to honor the language of their womb. What was the language they heard as they lay beneath their mother's beating heart? That is the language they need to learn. And that is the language we need to learn to respect. God bless you all as you walk ahead on the good road this day and for all the days to come, wherever you may be. Might we learn from the people who have made such hideous mistakes in the past, and might we take those lessons we have learned and create a good way forward, that those things may never happen again. Have a great day. God bless you. And I will see you again tomorrow for Church at Home with Rachel. And I promise it won't be as late coming, and it will be pre-recorded for you. Have a great day and God bless.